Good evening. We are going live with a fellow author, and this will be another episode of the Author Collaborative. I will be talking to a fellow author whose book I have read, and we'll be discussing our books. We'll be also sharing our knowledge with you all about books, writing, and publishing. So, do stay connected with us. I'm waiting for my guest. She is here. Let's wait for her to join. Kaivalya, can you send the request again? I think there was some issue. Hello, Haruna Aziz. Thank you for joining. Hello, Pixel Shutter. Thank you for joining. We are facing some technical issues, and I'm trying to add my guest to the live to begin today's episode. Hello, Read and Ramble. Thank you for joining. My guest will be joining me in a while. Please stay connected. Hello.
Hey,
Oh, yes, finally. I can't hear myself. Oh, it's not
the
echoing.
echo, okay. So I think it's the headphones that work. I can hear a slight echo, but that's okay considering all the tech issues we've been having. It's we can live with this one.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your patience to you and to everyone. Thank you for joining us.
I know. For those who've been uh, sticking around for the past 30 minutes, I think I should give them a free copy of my book just because it's perseverance.
Yes, I
And they're
know.
like they're like your true and whatever true followers. So you probably want to hang on to them for dear life because they've actually just you know
So true, so
stuck
true.
around.
Yes. And some of the people actually joined again and again. I really want to thank those people. Thank you for the
Yeah,
multiple times that you had to see my face and hear me apologizing.
yeah,
Okay, Kevalia, let's begin today's episode without much ado now because people have been waiting to
sure.
hear us. So, Kevalia, before we start, can you tell the audience a bit about yourself?
Um, so I'm a professional editor. Basically, all my life I've been in terms of my career, I've done writing related stuff. So either editing or corporate communication. Right now, I'm an editor for scientific research papers.
Hmm.
So yeah, I just made writing my own book was always uh, it was just a matter of when and not if, because that everyone who is you know
Hmm.
in the writing field, like, that's their eventual dream to kind of become the next Vikram Seth of this country. It doesn't happen, but one only hopes and dreams. So yeah, that's about me. And Kaivalya is actually a pseudonym, so I'll be very frank. It's not my real name. And it was just like when I'm creating so much else, why not just create a new identity for myself? So yeah,
Okay, and that's how we connected to each other through the pseudonym and through the book
yeah,
of
yeah.
Closets and Skeletons. And I have to admit that I really love the book. Absolutely, not really, absolutely love the book. And I have even listed it in my best reads of 2022 so far.
Yeah, yeah, I
That's how
saw that.
much I love the book. So I really want to discuss that. And I have few questions related to my reading of your book if you would be willing to answer them.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah.
We have Abhishek here who is saying, read the book, loved it, keep it up, Kevalya.
Okay. Thanks, Abhishek.
Abhishek,
That's actually
sorry.
that's my brother. So he's just doing the sibling support thing. So
How sweet, but though we do need family support wherever we we can, right? I mean, no support is more or less. So thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just open my questions now and I will start shooting them at you because people have been waiting so much.
Yeah.
Okay, my first question to you is your book touches upon gray shades of the human behavior, and that's something that I really loved about the book. So tell us some tips to tap into those kind of behavioral traits while writing, and what does one have to keep in mind while writing actions like these, how does one put actions which fall into the gray area into words and into stories.
Actually, writing about gray characters and settings is, I think, far more easier than writing about black and white characters, because in real life, it's very difficult to encounter people who are, just villains or just heroes. Everyone is a combination. Um, and yeah, considering there are 50 shades of gray, it should be, sorry, I couldn't help myself, I had to see that in. Um, so yeah, it's much more easier to write about gray characters, and I think it boils down to seeing things from their perspective. One thing that I read and that stuck with me for a long time is that given, in terms of trying to understand how another person would act, feel, react, you have to basically understand that, in their mind, they are justified in doing so. No one thinks they're being wrong or evil, or, that they're just being crazy. In their mind, somewhere there's a reasoning. I'm doing this because my belief system is being threatened or my way of life is being threatened. So it's just a matter of figuring out what is motivating this person. Why, why is why are they acting in a particular way? Right. And kind of building the story from that. Yeah.
Right. So important to tap into that particular feeling. Why are they doing what they are doing? That's kind of the essence of any characterization in any story, right? And
Mayuri said hi. So hey, Mayuri.
Hi, Mayuri. Thank you for joining. Yeah, so that's kind of the essence of whether you're writing a black and white character or a gray character. You need to understand their point of view and try to understand why they are doing what they are doing. So it doesn't matter. Thank you. That's a wonderful answer. Which brings me to my next question. The one thing that you feel is, lacking in terms of uh, the writing or whatever it is, the quality of writing when it comes to thrillers that are written by Indian authors.
I've read a few, and one thing I've read, one of the things that actually attracts me to science fiction is the fact that it's almost like uh, couch surfing in a way, because you get exposed to the social issues and the perspectives of another country or region. And so if you're an avid crime fiction follower, so you have Inspector Rebus and Edinburgh, or you have Eunice, Bowen, Norway. You associate particular geographies with particular, or even Sherlock Holmes for that matter. 221B Baker Street is like, um, it, it's so significant as a literary benchmark. So I think, and that's where Indian writers, I feel in my opinion, they fall short because they really don't explore. Like India is such a complex and beautiful country, and there is so much to exploit in this setting, which I don't think in most of the stories I've read, it's not captured very well, because it's, there's like this whole Western, um, layering that's done over Indian settings. So, for example, you'll be reading about a Indian cop who's going home and fixing soup and salad, which is a bit, and I actually read that in a book recently. It's Chennai, the inspector is based in Chennai, and he's going home. He's a bachelor. He's fixing a soup and salad for himself. And I'm like, why would you do that? I mean, it's an opportunity. You could have talked about some dosa joint in, some local neighborhood that is,
right.
That as someone who's not been there, who doesn't know much about the geography.
Exactly, right.
tell me about the local stuff. Like, rebate sequences, pubs, so what are the things, even in terms of something as simple as languages, the fact that we have so many languages, how does that kind of affect? Because you can't have an inspector just wandering about all over the place because you have people who, you encounter language difficulties. So I don't think India's setting is exploited very well. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
my technique.
And I think our influence matters a lot. I think what the problem here is, I'll tell you, we are influenced by American and English literature so much that tends to come into our fiction writing also. And one of the major reasons for that is we are not reading enough Indian literature to be able to draw inspiration for that kind of setting into our stories.
Or just applying a Western person's lens to India, saying what about this country is so fascinating,
Right.
And like I've read books and this really pissed me off big time because this writer was talking about, the inspector making fun, same book actually, about another person's about his subordinate English skills. And the typical pronunciation, South Indian pronunciation of certain words and all. And like, come on, it's while I get it, you use stereotypes to connect to the audience better, but also if you're making fun of people's English speaking skills in India, I mean, it's commendable actually that people, for their job, they're learning English. They are not a native, they're not native English speakers. So for a writer to do that, to, take pot shots at people who don't speak great English, I think that's very, it could be avoided because that, in fact, it's quite admirable that a person, say, sub-inspector is, trying to speak in English because he's under no obligation to know the language. So, pet peeve, I mean, I can go on and on, but
True. So well answered. I'm really impressed because this is something I have also noticed, but I was not sure what was missing, but you have put it into words. And now I understand this is the problem with crime thrillers in India. And you have pointed it out so well. Thank you for saying that. I will make sure that I consider this point whenever I am writing a crime thriller. So thank you.
yeah, sure.
Okay. One very important question that's been haunting me since I started reading your book is that it was so difficult to connect with you because you are not there on any social media platforms. And I really had to hunt for your email address. Thankfully, it was mentioned in the end of your book and I could connect to you. So tell me, in this day and age where an author like me, because I am somebody who promotes my book online so much, and I wanted to understand how you are doing it without any social media presence.
I'm not really doing much because so see, it really depends on your personality to a certain extent because if you're an introvert, like I'm actually bordering on antisocial. It's very hard to even, use social media to build up connections and leave alone use it to promote books. So I knew from the get-go that, and interestingly enough, actually I was, long at the beginning of my career, I was actually a social media marketing person. So yeah, very ironic. And I was in fact in charge of promoting a book. So there were a lot of takeaways from that experience as well.
Okay.
And I kind of weighed the pros and cons and decided it's not worth it because for me it would just seem very forced and it would, I'm not a very, I couldn't see myself creating content as frequently or trying to connect with readers or, it would have just been very, and so, yeah, so it was a conscious decision not to, create a social media presence just to start promoting my book. To answer your question, and but also the flip side is, I think social media is a bit overrated in terms of unless you're an author who's connecting and amassing followers and who's very active about promoting their book. In terms of if you're doing it on your own account, fine. But if you're trying to do it to others' accounts, to Bookstagrammers or something, I really don't think it works. and it's something no one ever tells you, or at least it's not in my case. I don't know what it is with the others. But unless you do like a time thing, time release, that everyone on Bookstagram is talking about you, everyone on blogs is talking about you. Even if you manage to, uh, you know, get appreciated by a Bookstagrammer with a lot of followers, it's not really going to convert to sales. So if you're saying others, get to this person who has 20,000 followers, I'll get them to review my book, and I'll suddenly have 200 book sales, that's not going to happen.
True.
So in terms of ROI, I really don't think social media is all that it's made out to be, but that's of course my personal experience. You could have very dedicated followers, or you could just be more persuasive, or you could just have better content, or whatever, and it might work out for you. But for me, for it, yeah, I mean, social media was never part of the plan. It's like, okay, let's see what happens. So, which partly contributed to all our tech troubles at the start of the session, because I don't have an Instagram account. So I was like, do I use my mom's account? Do I use my husband's account? Which one's going to work? And my mom has an active account. So it's really. So yeah.
That was actually frustrating, but also fun, because I was wondering if people would be able to put a face to to the book that they have read. I am sure many people have read the book and would like to know more about you, but since you are not on social media, they might not have been able to put a face to your writing. And
yeah, they're not missing out on much. It's okay. I want to say something interesting and funny. Please read my book.
okay, we have some people who have joined us. So if you guys have any questions, please put them in the comments while we are discussing. I'm already asking a few of my questions to. I don't know whether to call you Aparna or Kaivalya now.
No, it's fine. Whatever comes to your mind.
Okay, so my next question to you, Kaivalya, is as an indie author, what has been the worst and the best experience for you? And would you advise new authors or new writers to go the indie publishing way?
Worst experience is obviously lack of publicity. You have to kind of do your marketing yourself, and you have to put in the legwork, find out who on Instagram is first contacting, which blogger is interested in your sort of genre or book. So yeah, that whole marketing aspect actually, especially if you're an introvert, it kind of becomes a little stressful more than the writing itself. So yeah, that's definitely one downside. It's not that, I mean, I've not been traditionally published. I can't comment on how that experience compares. But yeah, I think if you are looking for publicity, for marketing support, there'll definitely be challenges. But the good thing is there's a lot of transparency in terms of the sales, especially if you're doing KDP. If you're going the KDP route, then you know immediately whenever you have any sales. So it's a bit of a, give and take. I mean, it's like a trade-off. Uh, do you want marketing support, or do you just want to know all your numbers in real time? So yeah.
Abhishek is asking when is the next book coming out?
It's always a work in progress. I mean, let's see. Actually, for the next one, I'm planning to make a push for traditional publishing, like approach, a literary agent, see and get rejected, get those 50 rejection letters out of the way, because, otherwise it's a bit of like, okay, I've published my book, and, now what?
Right.
And it's one thing getting, validation from readers, of course, and there's another, because I'm a professional writer and editor, but there's also that professional feedback that, getting that professional validation in terms of, okay, your writing is good, and you've like cleared the whatever the GMAT, and you've entered CIM or whatever, it's that chart that is very attractive. But yeah.
Right. Okay. That brings me to my last question for you, which is a few habits that you feel one must cultivate to become a better writer or author. And tell us about some of the habits that you have inculcated and that have helped you personally.
Um, of course, write and read a lot. That's like a no-brainer. Uh, but also, if you're someone who's new to writing, who's still, writing basically as a hobby, or uh, or I think also invest in an editor, and there are different levels of editing, because and this is another pet peeve that I have with most indie writers, because it, I think the value of people don't really appreciate the value that an editor brings to the table.
Right.
It's
Yes.
not just in terms of language, it's not like let's get the mechanics of writing, which is grammar, how to use an N dash versus an M dash, let's get that out of the way. It's not just that, it's also, if you sign up for it, an aspect of developmental editing, which is, is this making sense? Is this scene making sense?
Right.
Do people really talk like this in real life? Because you may think you have an excellent piece of dialogue going, but then, it takes someone with experience, sounds a little bit odd.
uh, that you use like Indianisms and stuff. You need someone who can help uh, spot those. And yeah, so invest in an editor, and I think what else? Benchmark, set high benchmarks. So if you're, especially if you're writing in a particular genre, look at what the greats have written.
Right.
Do not set a low benchmark, or I think the headphone's not working. So do not look at the latest book and set that as a benchmark, especially if you've been reading. If you aim uh, oh, high, you'd at least get somewhere there. So that's very important. I think setting good benchmarks for sure.
Right. We have a question from Bala for you. How do you zero down on an idea to write a book on?
It's just sometimes. So it could be something you're reading or something you're seeing, and it kind of triggers a train of thoughts, and you're saying, okay, either you find a character very interesting and you think, okay, let's put this person in a weird setting and see what happens. Or, you usually for me, it's like, just random stuff that I'm reading on Wikipedia, and, I'm, it's interesting, or, for, so yeah, it kind of just inspiration hits you from anywhere, actually, just a matter of. But when you do get an idea, very important to have a notepad around and just like jot it down. Otherwise, yeah.
So whatever ideas you're getting, note them down and work on them. Take it step by step. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. So that's what we did actually. Even for this, I think I had these ideas, broad ideas for all the stories in a notepad on my laptop for the longest time. Because and I had the ideas or in the outlines already, and then I just started writing them at one go. So the process of writing was far more quicker than the process of actually getting all these ideas and filing them away.
Yeah. Okay, so that brings me to the end of my questions that I had for you. You have also read my book, and if you have any questions related to that, please feel free to ask.
Yeah, I
And
so
actually,
yeah.
before you do that, I want you to read out a few paragraphs also from your book so that people know what we are talking about.
Yeah, I have a copy of my book here,
Yes.
which is yeah. I'll actually read out the one that I found the most funny. I absolutely enjoyed writing this story.
Hmm.
So, and I think it I like the story especially because it was I dealt with a lot of tropes that I think you find often in fiction, crime fiction, Indian crime fiction. So, let me see if I can find that page for you.
Hello, Sakshi. Sure, quite a few people joining us. So I'm talking to a fellow author, Kaivalya Ramnath, and she's going to be reading out from her book now.
So, it is. God, I'm so used to reading the online version of my book that finding a relevant paragraph in paper format is like really tough.
In the meanwhile, if you guys have any questions for us, please ask in the comments. We'll address them later.
Oh, can we skip to this a little later? I mean, I'm like really
Yes.
struggling to find the
No.
concerned paragraph.
Whatever questions you have for me now, I'm ready to answer.
Yeah, so yours is also a collection of short stories and poems. So I know how I approach the writing process of my books. It is also a collection of short stories. So I wanted to understand how you approached your book collection. I mean, did you have all the ideas filed away and then you sat down to work on them at one go, or did you just write each story as and when the idea came to you? And which is your favorite story from the collection?
So the ideas, I started noting them down. Once I was clear about the theme of the book, I had a few ideas already there, and then I also started jotting down whatever ideas came to me as and when they were coming in. I let the process be organic. You don't need to force yourself for the idea to come to you. That's something that I have learned over the years, and I have trained my mind to be that way. That let the ideas come organically to you. You can't force them to come to you. So whenever the ideas came to me, I just made a note of them and I started working on them one by one. I took it one story at a time. So I prepared the first drafts of all the stories first, and then I went and re-edited them multiple times to try and see whether they were fitting into the theme of this entire book or not. And my favorite story, that's a tricky one, but I love them all, of course, because they are my babies. But there is one particular that I really like the most because it was the most challenging for me to write, and that is Touch Me Not. Because it talks about a social issue that needs to be addressed more. That's why I think that's my favorite, and that was the most challenging one also for me to write. That's why.
So, how long was it, the whole process of putting together these stories?
So some of these stories have been reworked, and they were previously published as different versions of the existing stories that I have put into the book. So if we consider that time, I guess it would be around 2.5 years if we take that into consideration. But if we talk particularly about the book and how and when I started compiling it all together in the form of a book, I would say about 4 to 5 months.
Okay. For a second, I thought we lost you
We
there.
lost you for a bit.
And I can't hear you for some reason.
Can you hear me now?
It's the attack of a tech issue.
Can you hear me?
Let me just check. For some reason,
Yes, plug in the headphone.
Yeah, it's
In the
very
meanwhile,
strange.
please
So
stay
sometimes
connected
it
with
decides
us.
to.
We have just started the Q&A round where Kaivalya is asking me the questions now. I got done with my questions and she's asking me the questions now.
Yeah. So it's working now. The audio is working fine now. So my next question, and this is something that I've always thought about actually, is whether you think storytelling or writing, if it can be taught or learned. Because Stephen King in his book on writing, he talks about writing as a craft. And with any craft, basically, if you apply yourself diligently, you keep at it, you can improve over time. But of course, writing is also described as an art. And the thing with an art is that some part of it is, it cannot be imitated or it
Right.
cannot be reproduced. It cannot be taught or passed on to someone else. So where are you on that spectrum? Do you think it's something that can be cultivated if you keep at it long enough, or is that some part of it just very organic and you know?
I feel it's a bit of both because you cannot teach something to someone if they are not really interested. The first thing has to be of interest. They have to be really wanting and willing to learn to do that. So yes, it can be taught, but there has to be some participation from their side in the form of interest and willingness to learn. Having said that, I also believe in the power of consistency. So if you really want to write, you can become better. If you have a passion for it over a period of time, it can be self-learned and self-taught, but you have to be consistent about it. Also, you can't write once in a month or once in a week and call yourself a writer and say that I want to become a writer. You have to keep doing it regularly, like 5 days in a week or maybe 20 to 25 days in a month, in order to craft that particular skill of yours of writing. You have to keep doing it consistently. It can be taught, but then it also has to be intrinsic. It also has to be organic.
Right, of course, yeah. So I mean, and we discussed this a little bit earlier when I was during my monologue actually about indie publishing. What are your thoughts? I mean, you've gone the indie way. What's your thought on the indie publishing in India?
I did not catch some bits of the question. Could you repeat that? Because we are losing connection.
Yeah, no. So I was asking you what your thoughts were on the publishing in India,
Right.
considering you also just very recently put together a list of your favorite reads in 2022 so far. So
So, what I believe is that there is a lack of understanding from the point of view of the readers. There is a certain hesitance in the mind of the readers when it comes to indie authors and self-published authors. They feel that the quality might not be as good as something that comes out of a big publication house or something that comes out of traditional publishing, which is untrue. I believe there are good writers and bad. I don't want to call anyone a bad writer, but there is a certain quality that we like in both pools of authors. There are some writers you might not like who are traditionally published. There are some writers you might not like who are into indie publishing also. You need to be smart about picking the right kind of author, the right kind of writing that appeals to you from both pools of writers. That needs to change in the Indian mindset and in the Indian reading community, especially. And we always, as readers, I have observed that we complain about the quality of writing when it comes to self-publishing. I believe we can change that if we pick the right kind of authors. We can, of course, keep complaining about it, but then we have to be picky about what kind of reading you are doing. Because we have observed over the years, at least as a reader, I have observed that even when I have picked the biggest and most popular books, I have not been as satisfied as much as the hype was around the book or the author. And that can only change if we give a chance to authors who are lesser popular. And in the past 2 years, at least from my end, I have tried to read as many indie authors as possible. Because while trying to promote them, I have realized that how much good quality of writing exists in self-publishing and indie publishing also. That's one area I believe we need.
Cool, cool. Um, and you know, like I mentioned before, I think the toughest aspect of the whole indie publishing experience for me was the marketing and the promotion bit. So, considering your vastly most experience, if what are your tips for an introvert author? Because I think there's a high probability that many authors actually tend introverts, don't have massive social media following, or and might really struggle with promoting their books. So, any tips, any experiences you can share?
One thing that I want to share here out of my own experience is that I started realizing that there can only be a limited number of people I can reach in my offline social circle, because not everyone that you know personally is going to be interested in reading your book. You have to tap an audience that is out of your reach, and you have to connect with them at certain point. My hunger was for more and more people to read my book, and I think that's worked as a motivating factor for me to be active on social media and really come out of my comfort zone in facing the camera and talking to people and reaching out to unknown people. That's worked for me. So you find that motivating factor for you, and I think if you come out of your comfort zone, that's going to be fine with you. I am also an introvert. Actually, I'm an ambivert, but over the years I'm more of I grew up as an introvert over the years, and with many experiences, I have now become an ambivert, and I'm comfortable with talking to strangers. And as somebody, as one of the quotes goes, I think life begins at the end of the comfort zone, and I think that's something that we all have to put into consideration when you do this. Coming out of your comfort zone is really important if you succeed in a particular manner. Yes, you can stay in your comfort zone and success is possible within that comfort zone. That would be limited. Really explore and reach wider avenues, and you're really ambitious about your and really come out of that comfort zone and try in the form. Not necessarily using social media for that. You can also do offline events. You can do readings, have a book club arranged. There are many possibilities in the offline sector also. But then again, you have to come out of that mindset very quickly. Just one bit of hesitation, if you get over, I think you can achieve a lot more. And a lot of.
Cool. Thanks for that. Finally, you already have 5 books under your belt. What's next for you in terms of do you want to tackle a different format, a different genre? Uh, what are your plans?
So I want to try out. I really want to try that out. I'm not promising anything, but I in the next year, my brain.
Yeah. Somehow, yeah, the audio is just getting a little, frazzled. So, yeah.
Yes, we have already taken and now I want to lesser serious and more fun part of
I actually can't hear you very well because, your voice is getting a bit. Uh, Let me just try and turn off the headphone.
If this works.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yeah, much better. So,
Okay, so I was saying let's move on to the less serious and more fun part of the session, which is the rapid fire round.
sure, okay. I have my query. So I'll go first.
Okay,
That's fine.
yes, yes, sure.
So, yeah, so your recent book, Under the Mistletoe and Under Story, so I was reading it and I came across your dedication state, which is keeping score about how many books your husband has read so far, and turns out zero. So I just wanted an update on that situation. Have you managed to, convince him to read any of your books?
No,
No luck?
no luck. See, this is one of the motivations for me to reach out to people on social media and people out of my known circle, because I know that the people who are in my family and friend circle, they won't read my books. I need people to read my books.
I mean, yeah, it's very sad and ironic, but yeah, it's but I guess that just it's fine.
Yeah,
As long as you're paying for the as long as you're bearing the publication cost, it's fine.
right.
Okay, so next, there's a book. One of your stories was about. I think the first story in your collection actually was about the secret Santa at work. So I just wanted to know if what was the best secret Santa gift you've ever received, or any gift basically that you've ever received.
Okay, so at the top of my head, one gift that is coming to mind from the Secret Santa that I played when I was working. Somebody took really good care of, merchandising, putting together merchandise of all the books and TV shows that I was really a fan of. So I had merchandise from Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, uh, and and a lot of other shows and literature that I was really a fan of, and I really am a fan of. So that was wonderful.
Okay, I mean I've not read all the books in the collection, but I think something that I really like was the concept of that, the spirit animal and basically,
Hmm.
using that as a source of strength. I thought that was really
Yes,
good. And even I think it's called Dementors or something. The way, basically facing, those kind of negative situations or people.
right.
Yeah, that was actually something that I do remember about the books. Yeah. Moving on, you have a story called Alpha Matters. It's about, a person returning to school much later and kind of reminiscing about their school years. So, what is your favorite moment or memory from school?
Hello, I lost you a bit.
Did you hear
No, I
that?
did not actually. Can you repeat it?
No, so I was asking your favorite. I was asking about your favorite memory from school, from your school years.
Ah, okay. In my school years, there were a lot of wonderful memories, but like Riyansh in the story, I want to talk about a memory that I recently had when I revisited the school. The way Riyansh did, and he had a reminiscence of the memories while he had in the school years. So I have also gone back to my school recently, and fortunately, I got a chance to interact with the students and tell them about my journey in the same school. And we had a very fun interactive session where I talked about my books, and we played some fun games, and I taught them what I knew about writing. I tried to teach them. I did not. I tried to teach them. Let's keep it at that because I'm no expert. Uh, and at the end of the session, the principal, she was really nice to me, and she said what an honor it was to have me here. And I was like, no, it's an honor for me to give back to my alma mater because I have learned from here. So that was like a wonderful moment for me.
Okay. Moving on to the next question. since your book is a collection of both prose and poetry, which is tougher for you personally to write?
For me personally, prose is always more difficult because it requires a lot more thought process, and you have to keep going back to it. At least in my experience, I don't know if it's that way for every poet out there. Because for me, when I have written a poem, that's it. About half an hour or 1 hour or 1 day or half a day, whatever goes into writing it, that's about it. I don't have to go back to it and work on it. But with prose, what I have observed is I need to go back to it again and again in order to make it better, in order to make sure I have not missed out on any typos or grammatical errors or any language that needs polish.
Makes sense. Yeah. And I guess the writing process is spread over a few days as opposed to writing it at
Right.
one go
Yes.
or in a single session. Yeah. Um, next, so if you were given a choice between excellent plot, mediocre writing, or mediocre plot, excellent writing, which would you choose?
I would definitely choose excellent
Is
writing
it
and mediocre plot because I really get irritated with bad language. What irritates me the most as a reader is when a good plot is ruined because of bad writing, and I really don't like that. So I would definitely choose a writing which is good, but the plot being mediocre.
yeah, that's it from my end.
Yes, so
It's very interesting.
so now it's my turn to throw the rapid fire questions at you. You have to answer within 10 seconds. Okay, are you ready? Yeah, so my first question to you is a real
Yeah, let's
life.
get going for the tech issues takeover.
My first question to you is a real life crime that inspired one or more of your stories.
Not inspired. Actually, so one of the stories, yeah, actually inspired. It kind of planted that idea in my head. I was just doing some random reading, and I came across this story about pharma company in the US where the bottles were found to be contaminated, and it actually became a trigger for a lot of the safe pharma packaging that we see nowadays. It happened in the 70s or 80s or something. So it kind of, because it happened that, it, in terms of safety, safe packaging and stuff, it kind of, led to a lot of legislation in the US around. So that kind of gave me an idea for one of the stories. So, yeah.
Okay, that's nice.
Actually, that's one of my favorite stories in book. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay, let's go on to the next question then. This is one of my favorites because it also reflects on what I personally feel about something. So I want to know your point of view also. An honest thief or a corrupt lawyer or policeman? Who would you befriend?
Um, uh, can you actually repeat that? I think I lost some
So I was asking, an honest thief or a corrupt policeman or lawyer? Who would you befriend?
corrupt policemen because at least we know what you work. We have enough of those in India, so it's like familiar territory. So yeah,
Right, and also life becomes smoother, right?
I mean, yeah, I don't want to say it. Let's not get into more trouble.
Okay, let's not get into the tricky part of the answer. You have answered it, and I'm happy. Next question. A character inspired from the
There's a
people in your life. Sorry, I was asking you. A character inspired from the people in your life, or a character inspired from stories you read. Why?
So it's actually the second book in the series, which is Demons, and it's based Oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. One of the stories. Okay, just imagine you didn't hear the last uh, few words. So yeah, I think one of them was based on a similar situation that someone, that very close, a relative in fact, was going through.
Okay.
So so I think that whole experience, you will know of course because you've read it. But yeah, that whole experience was so jarring on so many levels that I thought it's interesting but also scary in a way. So yeah, I put that down. And it's actually also it's a story that most people have said they liked a lot and stuff. So I'm actually very happy about it. It's also very close to my heart in
Yes.
that sense.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, so the last crime that you read about or saw on a news channel is the plot of your next story. Tell us about the plot line.
So I mean, I'm not someone who reads physical newspapers, so I just, most of my news is what I get on my Google feed, and because of my Googling habits, most of the feed tends to be about Formula One or some video game, you know, or those kind of updates. So I don't really get too many crime stories on my feed. But I think there's this one recent case about some judge, right, who was found to he had about 1 crore stashed away, 1 crore of black money stashed away, and applied for that, the amnesty scheme under the IT Act. So yeah, that's the last crime I read about. So it'll probably have to follow like one of those Arthur Haley formats, where you just deep dive into an industry or a profession and kind of, build a story out of that, because of itself there's no story.
That would be a really interesting crime fiction read. I hope you are able to convert it into a book.
No, yeah.
Okay, my last question to you is you are out for some work and realize that you are being followed. What's your first reaction?
The two reasons that would be a very impossible situation, because A, I don't get out of the house at all, like try and avoid it. But I'm pretty antisocial. So, if I have to like step out, it's like 3, 4 things have to be done, in that one outing. So it's very unlikely you'll find me just loitering about, around my building. And even if you do catch me, it's very unlikely I'll notice anyone or anything, around me. I'll probably be lost in my thoughts. So it, requires two impossible situations to occur. I'm out, I've noticed someone's following me. For me to kind of think about what I do in that situation, I'll just probably just stand somewhere, stare back at that person, see what they're up to, Yeah, probably.
Interesting. Okay.
Confront them if necessary. Again, yeah.
Okay. Hmm.
But
That's
yeah,
that.
like that's probably yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for answering my questions and for joining me today. And whoever has joined us and stayed connected with us, a very big thank you to all of you. And I apologize once again for the delay. And you can catch this video on my IGTV and on my YouTube channel later on also. So thank you for a wonderful episode today.
Check that out actually how that works, how I can watch the replay of this video. I mean, I have a lot of Instagramming to get through.
I will share the links with you, so
Post.
that won't be an issue. And whoever is well versed with social media can catch the video on my Instagram page and also on my YouTube channel with the same name, that is Rustic Mind. So that can help you have a look at our conversation, which I believe was full of insights and knowledge. So do have a look at it. Once again, thank you for joining me, Kaivalya, and thank you everyone for joining me. Have a great weekend and good night.
Thanks so much. It's great fun.